Hello again, it's Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher. Welcome back, and this is anecdote number 4 in my series, and there are 3 other ones if you want to watch them. I've had a modicum of success with those in terms of viewership. So the title of this anecdote is The Case of the Missing Colt Revolver. And it involves my brother and me, and the year is 1960. I'm a junior in high school in machine shop class, my dad being the teacher, and my brother is a senior, probably 17 years old at the time. Remember, these are good times in the 50s. It's just nothing like the craziness today. I grew up in the best world imaginable with great parents, and again, my dad being the teacher of machine shop, and we were college bound, so Dad gave us permission to come into the class, which is really not, it's a vocational class, but I had a lot of college prep classes that I had to take too, even Latin, believe it or not, Latin. I darn near flunked my Latin. Well, I won't say any more about that. But since my dad was the teacher, I'm going to have to admit, we got special attention. So that was the year that I built this little engine, and I've talked a lot about this over the years. There's a bunch of videos on it if you want to see it run, but it is a Stewart number 9 horizontal steam engine, and it was made from a kit of castings that came from England, and admittedly it was a kit. But anyway, both this and my brother's project were submitted to the Ford Motor Company Industrial Arts Award program up in Dearborn, Michigan. So I made this, and my brother made a pistol, yeah, in high school. But it was a percussion cap, and it was modeled after the Colt Navy, I think 1851. I don't remember the caliber, but it was a percussion cap pistol, just beautifully crafted and blued, and then he made a wooden case, velvet lined, and all of that. And there are no pictures of that, but it really was an amazing job. I'll talk a little bit more about that as extra credit at the end. So my brother made the pistol, I made the engine, both of them submitted and shipped up to Dearborn, Michigan for the contest. And the contest was held in the Ford Motor Museum there. I hope you have visited that. I've been there many, many times. So ultimately, they had the contest. We didn't go up there, but we received news from them, a letter or whatever it was. Maybe it was through the school. But this little engine, where is it here? There's still a blue tag right here. Can you see that blue tag? That was the identification tag up at Dearborn. And believe it or not, I did win an honorable mention. And I got a $50 check, which is almost like $500 now. I thought I'd hit the lottery. I mean, it was just wonderful. But now let me tell you about the pistol, because that's the essence of this story, not this. I've talked about this a million times. I'm sure you're sick of it. So in the last few days, I looked and looked around this house because someplace or another, there's a newspaper clipping of me standing there as a 16-year-old boy holding on to this, you know, like a little kid. And I looked like I was about 12. But I was so proud I hate pride, but I think I was kind of proud. And then I was a junior Rotarian in high school, so I had to go before a group of old men, not as old as me, and talk about this. I was just scared to death, you know, and I had a free dinner and all that. It was a good experience to force me into public speaking like that. And my boss from the hardware store was there, and the postmaster was the sponsor that picked us up at the high school. But I got a little bit sidetracked there. That's just about enough about me and the engine. And back to the pistol. Now, I'm going to include several pictures of a Colt Navy. They're just a beautiful gun, the design, and that's before cartridges even. So I don't know where, there were no plans, so I don't know where Jan came up, my brother Jan came up with the idea, but again, he's very creative. He was an Elon Musk of his time. Maybe not quite that smart, but incredibly creative and ingenious, because even my dad couldn't show him how to make a pistol. And I remember him on that little Hardinge mill with the dividing head making the cylinder, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about here in a minute. But the essence, again, of this story is that when I was notified that I won honorable mention, my brother was notified that the pistol was stolen. Yes, stolen at the exhibit. Now, there was supposedly security there, so it probably was an inside job. My brother was crushed by that. I don't think he ever got over it. And my dad was pretty upset as well. So there are no pictures of that, no evidence whatsoever, because I'm sure he probably would have won a prize. But imagine a high school student submitting a pistol. Nowadays, that wouldn't happen. But, it was a good learning experience for both of us. But I don't think that in my brother's entire life he ever finished another project to that degree of perfection, because it just took the wind out of his sail. So most often the projects that Jan made over the years were he would just get them roughed out and then move right on to something else, because that's the way his mind worked. He couldn't take the time to do the polishing and the finishing. This is as far as he's going to take it. So it really was a tragedy at that time. And I don't blame Ford for it in any way. There were just bad people or a bad man involved that had to have that pistol. Now here's a picture that I got off of the internet showing a Colt Navy. Again, it's percussion cap, so there are nipples on the cylinder there. And if you do not know much about guns, this is the built-in ramrod for packing the powder and the wad and the ball, and he did shoot his several times. Now this one is highly embellished with engraving. His was not engraved, however it was blued. I honestly do not remember if his had brass or if it was all steel. I just don't remember, but I wanted to give you a close-up of the cylinder here because it was interesting. I remember him on the Hardinge mill milling out these little grooves here to revolve the cylinder, and I remember him drilling the 6 holes in the end. Well, this is the cylinder out of my Ruger Bearcat, just to talk about. Of course, on this end there was no ejection system like this, and but this little ratchet, whatever you call it here, of course, was part of the cylinder. So this part is pretty complicated for a 17-year-old to make, as you can imagine. But there were also, I believe, flutes in his, although I'm not positive. But the interesting thing is that he was making this out of mild steel, not tool steel. So the first one he made and fired, and we were out in my backyard, and this was pretty scary, but on the first shot, the cylinder just plain split open right here, and the powder blew out. So then we came to the full realization this is a black powder gun. Of course, the original one would have been black powder. That was long before smokeless. So then he was undaunted. He went ahead and made another cylinder, because now it's always easier the second time around, isn't it? So this is what a Hardinge horizontal mill looks like that we had at the high school as kids. And I owned one of these for a while, and it was too awkward to try to get down the steps, so unfortunately I sold it, and those were the days before YouTube. But anyway, there was a vertical head attachment for this that we kept on that machine most of the time. But I'll have to tell you that my brother hogged that machine in that class most of the year. So when I made the steam engine, I had to do it on other equipment. I was a little annoyed, to say the least, maybe less. Now this is an example of the Hardinge dividing head. So Jan used one just like this, and you could put a chuck on here too, and this could be raised to the vertical position, but these are really handy. But that's how he did all of the work on the cylinder of that Colt Navy. By then, we knew how to use dividing heads pretty well by the time we were 16. So this is my father, Norman Peterson. I've shown this picture many times. My father and my teacher and my mentor, and the one that got both my brother and I started into being shop teachers. Well, if you're waiting for a happy ending, there isn't any. This is it, just another slice of life, isn't it? Well, I hope you liked this little story, and if you did, there is a playlist for my others, and if there's enough views, I have a lot more stories to tell if anyone wants to hear them. And a lot of what I'm doing in the way of these anecdotes is really for my family more than those out there, but there seems to be a few people that enjoy the adventures of Tubalcain and his brother. So stand by for many, many more as I cover the trilogy of the boats, if I ever do that. I'm not sure. So long for now. See you next time.